After my husband, Arthur Sterling, and his young mistress, Lily Hayes, conspired to end my life, my soul unexpectedly found refuge in another person's body. That person, of all people, was the young and beautiful mistress herself, Lily Hayes. This was an opportunity sent from the heavens, a perfect chance to utterly devastate that vile pair. I don't know how long I thrashed in the suffocating darkness and silence before a glimmer of light finally appeared. I fought to open my eyes only to find Arthur Sterling, that aging wretch, crouched before me washing my feet. The image of him, moments before my death, pulling the breathing tube from my throat while his little mistress smirked beside my hospital bed, flashed before me, sharp and agonizing. Hatred surged through me, hot and violent. I lifted my foot and kicked him away, sending him sprawling onto the floor, and unleashed a torrent of curses. But the voice that left my lips was not the raspy, weakened sound of my dying days. It was young, melodious, and incredibly sweet. It even sounded vaguely familiar. Arthur was startled, but instead of anger, a simpering, placating smile plastered itself across his face. "Honey, what's wrong? Did I hurt you?" He scrambled clumsily to his feet, breathing heavily, and perched beside me on the edge of the bed. Honey. That sickening term of endearment was certainly not for me. I had married Arthur when I was 22. For 3 decades of marriage, he had never once given me a nickname. He always addressed me by my full name, Evelyn Reed. In those 30 years, I hadn't thought anything of it. After all, I usually called him by his name too. But having died once, I understood. A man who never gives you a nickname likely has no affection for you. I raised a hand to strike him again but froze. My fingers were long, slender, and fair as jade. My arm was smooth and pale as a lotus root. This was nothing like the withered, frail form of a woman past 50, ravaged by a terminal illness. I pushed Arthur away and rushed to the full-length mirror nearby, stopping dead in my tracks. My soul, Evelyn Reed's soul, was housed within the body of Lily Hayes. Only then did I register my surroundings. This was my own bathroom, part of my spacious bedroom suite. I instinctively glanced at the digital clock on the wall. October 15, 2021, 9:30 p.m. My mind went blank for a full 30 seconds before the shock subsided, and the horrifying reality of my situation dawned on me. I, Evelyn Reed, Arthur Sterling's wife of 30 years, had tragically died of a terrible illness on October 1, 2021, precisely 2 weeks prior, while the nation celebrated its founding day. Before I died, Arthur had pulled the plug on my life support. He stood by my hospital bed, Lily Hayes at his side, and cruelly informed me that my illness wasn't natural, but the result of 3 years of them subtly poisoning my food and drink. With a heart overflowing with rage and an unquenchable thirst for vengeance, I had closed my eyes amidst the triumphant laughter of that despicable pair. Lily Hayes wanted me dead to take my place. Arthur Sterling wanted me dead for his so-called love. To hell with his love. It was nothing more than a sordid alliance of a thief and a whore. Arthur, wrapped in his silk bathrobe, approached me, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "Why are you suddenly unhappy, my love?" His voice was syrupy sweet, making me want to gag. Looking at the reflection in the mirror, my own youthful, beautiful, and vibrant body contrasted with Arthur's jowly, aging face beside me. I couldn't help but smile. The heavens hadn't just given me a second chance. They had bestowed upon me the identity of a vengeful spirit. They had given me the perfect instrument to exact my revenge and destroy Arthur Sterling. Arthur and I had no children, which meant there was no one to truly hold him accountable after my death. Barely had I been cold in the ground before he eagerly moved Lily Hayes into our home and began preparations for a wedding. Marriage to him was out of the question now, but my fortune, the company I had built, certainly was not. Flipping through the memories stored within Lily Hayes's mind, I found a relentless stream of thoughts about how to eliminate me and settle into this grand villa as a wealthy full-time wife. At just 22, fresh out of university, she dreamed of reaching the pinnacle of success by selling her youth and beauty and causing the demise of a successful man's wife. I scoffed internally. Absolutely not. I would not let her ambition be fulfilled. Her shell now housed my core. I would use this body to do things she could never have imagined. I proposed to Arthur that I wanted to intern at the company. The company was my life's work, the empire I had built from the ground up. There was no way I would let Arthur simply inherit it. Arthur was clearly taken aback. His sweet, doting Lily was a fragile little thing with no interest in supporting herself. The dynamic between the old man and the young woman was obvious. He was drawn to her youth and beauty, she to his wealth and status. Both knew the score. He sought fleeting pleasure, she sought effortless luxury. My sudden desire to work disrupted this carefully balanced arrangement. Arthur was inherently suspicious and began to question me. I want to work at your company so I can keep an eye on you. Make sure you don't pay attention to other pretty young women. I rummaged through Lily's fragmented memories, trying my best to replicate her simpering tone and gestures. It was a nauseating performance of feigned jealousy and possessiveness. A young girlfriend wanting to keep tabs on her wealthy older lover, while also getting a glittering corporate experience on her resume? It was perfectly understandable to a man like Arthur. He fell for it completely, his suspicion dissolving. He pulled me into his embrace. All right, anything you want, I'll give you. You want the stars from the sky, the moon from the water? They're yours. Of course he had given her my life, hadn't he? Watching his aging face, now puffy, jowly, with eyes increasingly lost in rolls of fat, soften into a semblance of youthful affection, I had only one reaction: nausea. In my previous life with him, our days had been ordinary, uneventful. Because I was constantly focused on building the business, I hadn't even truly looked at how he had changed over the years. Now, stuck close to him again, there was only hatred and disgust. And the startling realization: this old man was truly hideous. Every day I suppressed my revulsion, fueled by the burning need for revenge. To execute such vengeance I needed allies. Taking back control of the company wouldn't be easy. In my former life I had many loyal confidants within the company walls. But now I couldn't reveal my true identity. Such an incredible, unbelievable truth would surely lead to me being labeled insane and committed. After several sleepless nights poring over my plans, I formulated a meticulous strategy. I would insist Arthur keep our relationship a secret, allowing me to seamlessly join the company. I would start at the very bottom, in administration. And crucially, I would request to be the secretary of my best friend, the sales director, Eleanor Vance. However, Eleanor already knew about Lily Hayes and Arthur Sterling's affair. The day I started, she slammed her letter of resignation onto Arthur's desk, unleashing a furious tirade. You ungrateful dog. Without Evelyn Reed, you would have nothing today. Then, without missing a beat, she turned and delivered a sharp, stinging slap across my face. You freeloading hussy, you don't deserve to work alongside me. I cried. Tears streamed down my face, a torrent of uncontrollable sobs. Not because of the pain of the slap, but because I was deeply, profoundly moved. After my death, things hadn't simply withered away as I might have expected. Though I had no children and no siblings, and my parents were long gone, my best friend remembered me. She was defending my honor. Eleanor resigned in a blaze of fury, taking the company's veteran R&D team with her. In a skincare company, losing the research and development heart was a devastating blow. Arthur instantly looked 10 years older, his remaining hair threatening to fall out from stress. The rush of triumph was almost overwhelming. I needed to strike while the iron was hot, to deliver a fatal blow to the old man. How could I make that wretched man suffer the most? By giving him a taste of his own medicine. I would cuckold him. In her university days, Lily Hayes had a boyfriend, a tall, handsome academic named Leo Vance. He was 23, a master's student. Though from a modest background, he was upright and kind. The gold-digging Lily Hayes had no true regard for him. She saw him as poor and overly devoted, incapable of providing the future she craved. Yet, she still coveted his good looks and physical appeal. I decided to step into Lily's shoes and explore this connection further. And at the opportune moment, I would make sure Arthur saw the stark difference between himself and this vigorous young man. I reached out to Leo Vance. He was clearly overjoyed, arriving early at the agreed-upon coffee shop. He had ordered Lily's favorite coffee and even brought homemade heart-shaped pastries. As I sat down, I studied him closely. He was even more appealing in person than in his photos. Approximately 185 centimeters tall, broad-shouldered, long-legged with striking deep-set eyes and a refined demeanor. He was quite simply a prime specimen of young manhood. Lily Hayes certainly had good taste in men, even if she didn't appreciate them. Noticing my scrutiny, Leo shifted uncomfortably. You seem different today. Oh. I raised an eyebrow, desperately sifting through Lily's memories for moments of interaction with him. Lily had always treated Leo with a certain coolness, a dismissiveness I had unconsciously maintained. "There's a kind of sharpness in your eyes," Leo said, looking at me intently. "Almost like killing intent." Had this young man seen through me? A flicker of panic rose, but Leo's tone immediately shifted. Did he treat you badly?" Remarkable. Not only did Leo know about Lily and Arthur's relationship, but he was still so incredibly devoted. As they say in those melodramatic romance novels, Leo Vance was utterly smitten with Lily Hayes. Looking at his earnest, heartbroken eyes, I hesitated for a moment. Was it truly right to use and potentially hurt this innocent young man for revenge against a monster? But the burning hatred from my death was too powerful to suppress. The desire for vengeance crushed the fleeting spark of compassion. I leaned into his words. "Yes," I said softly. "His wife is gone, but he still won't give me a proper status. I feel like I've wasted years of my youth." A look of profound sympathy crossed Leo's face. "Leave him," he pleaded. "Come back to me. I'll take care of you." "And with what will you take care of me?" I countered, adopting a touch of Lily's materialistic air. "I'm used to living in a villa, riding in luxury cars. I can't possibly go back to eating street food and living in a rented apartment." Leo's head drooped, his expression heavy with a palpable sense of shame about his financial limitations. Yet, objectively speaking, here was a 26-year-old graduate with a master's degree from a top university in chemistry, a field with immense potential. If I could go back 30 years and choose between him and Arthur Sterling, I would undoubtedly choose Leo. After the illusions of wealth had faded, I understood that fortune and fame were fleeting external things. A good character was the only true foundation for happiness. Faced with such a genuinely good young man, I altered my plan slightly. I began to persuade him. "I do want to be with you, but I can't come back empty-handed. His company's R&D team was poached. You're studying chemistry. I can introduce you. You should join his company." Leo resisted. Working under the man who was his rival for the woman he loved, and having to witness their relationship daily, would be a form of emotional torture. But I used every ounce of my persuasive ability, targeting his core desires: to be with Lily Hayes and to build a successful career. Ultimately, I convinced him. Getting Leo Vance into Arthur's company was the first crucial step of my plan. The next phase would involve Arthur facing a complete collapse. 3 months later, Leo Vance graduated with his master's degree. I formally introduced him to Arthur and recommended him for a position. Arthur must have truly believed Lily Hayes was nothing more than a pretty face with no brains. Even as I openly brought a brilliant and highly competitive young man into the company, he showed no sign of suspecting any potential entanglement between Leo and Lily. When he heard Leo was a top-tier chemistry graduate, Arthur immediately ordered the entire company to give him a welcoming reception. This was despite Leo being a recent graduate with limited practical experience. It was clear just how desperate the company's situation was. Leo's expertise was formidable. He quickly integrated his research findings with the company's brand development needs. It didn't take long for him to develop a promising new product. Following my suggestion, Arthur began the process of applying for a patent for this innovation. The patent application process was lengthy and complicated. Truly waiting for the patent to be granted could take forever, significantly delaying the product launch and impacting the company's revenue. At the same time, I began to subtly encourage Arthur to attack Eleanor Vance's new company. The method I proposed: stealing her patent, specifically the research that had originated from our old R&D team which Eleanor had taken with her. Arthur hesitated. He knew Eleanor's second degree was in law. Besides being a formidable chemical engineer, she had once been the city's most respected lawyer. Engaging in a commercial dispute with Eleanor Vance was unlikely to end well. But I understood Arthur well. Beyond his suspicious nature, his greatest trait was his boundless greed and ambition for accolades. The patent Eleanor took with her was originally part of our company's assets, I argued persuasively, watching his expression closely. You and your late wife developed it together. At least half of it is rightfully yours. For her to openly resign and take the patent was her act of injustice first. You wouldn't be acting unjustly by reclaiming what's yours. Besides, the company is in a precarious state. You wouldn't want everything you've worked for all these years to vanish, would you? He frowned in deep thought, smoking 3 cigarettes before finally nodding his assent. Faced with the prospect of immense potential gain, The threat posed by Eleanor seemed less formidable. After a few days of careful consideration, Arthur indeed began preparations to steal Eleanor's patent. Meanwhile, I used my old personal email address to send Eleanor Vance a message, outlining Arthur's intentions. I signed it simply, "Someone seeking justice for Evelyn Reed." Eleanor and I had grown up together, worked side by side for half a lifetime. We were closer than sisters. Armed with this information, I knew she would work with me to bring Arthur down. All I had to do now was wait. Of course, while waiting, I couldn't be idle. Since I had been given this second chance in Lily Hayes's body, starting a new life, I had to plan not just for revenge but for my own future. Lily Hayes was enrolled in a financial management program, which happened to be my secondary area of expertise. While she had focused solely on seducing Arthur and achieving her trophy wife status, her grades were abysmal. Using Arthur's money, I enrolled myself in intensive cram courses. Within 3 months, I earned my accounting qualifications. In the gaps between dealing with Arthur, I acquired certifications as an auditor, financial planner, and financial analyst. I even enrolled in a master's program, excelling academically. Arthur was surprised by my sudden academic zeal, but he raised no objections. He seemed content that I would continue studying, effectively remaining his golden canary. His focus was entirely on his struggling business. During this period of living with him, I pieced together the subtle clues of how they had poisoned me. I then began to administer a similar substance to Arthur, though in much smaller doses. While they were heartless killers, I still retained a measure of ethical restraint. No one, for any reason, had the right to take another person's life. Under my careful attention, Arthur's health began to deteriorate. He often felt weak and easily fatigued. I used this as a reason to grow increasingly distant from him. As I spent time with him, I noticed something striking. His attitude towards Lily Hayes was completely different from how he had treated me. He was genuinely patient and tender. With Lily, he not only lavished her with attention but actively supported her academic pursuits, using his money and connections to smooth over any obstacles she faced in school. Because of this, I achieved excellent grades and even managed to join the party. Ironic, given my true identity and purpose. I even started thinking about establishing my own independent career. His physical decline, lack of energy, and my emotional detachment left him feeling frustrated and anxious. One late night, he unexpectedly suggested we have a heart-to-heart talk. He began with a long sigh. "Lily," he said, his voice heavy, "Evelyn and I met when we were young, and were together for half a lifetime. Do you know why I was willing to abandon a wife like her to be with you? The reason he absolutely had to kill me? Yes, that was something I was morbidly curious to hear." I sat up and switched on the bedside lamp. In the soft, warm glow, Arthur looked almost benign, even benevolent. He sighed again. "When she was young, Evelyn was even more beautiful than you. But what was truly remarkable was her brilliant mind. Everything I have today she built. In her presence, I always felt weak. But you are different. You make me feel protective, you make me want to cherish you. You make me feel like a man." I was frozen, speechless. His reason for wanting me dead was utterly flimsy, breathtakingly self-serving. The fact that he was discussing me with Lily Hayes at this moment indicated something else entirely. When faced with immense difficulties and looming threats, he deeply missed me. His capable wife who had helped him conquer every challenge. The woman who had once cleared the path for him was now meticulously planning how to impale him upon those very thorns. Collaborating with Leo Vance, I arranged for the research Arthur had invested heavily in to be transferred to Eleanor Vance. Leo was bewildered by my actions. "What benefit is there for us if you do this?" he asked. "We won't gain control of Arthur's company this way," I explained, my tone calm and detached. "It's better to sell these research findings to Eleanor Vance. We'll gain a significant amount of capital. Money is the most tangible thing, isn't it?" Perhaps it was my inability to perfectly mimic Lily Hayes's usual flighty demeanor, but Leo looked at me with profound confusion. "Lily, you've changed. And if I've changed, you won't like me anymore?" I retorted, a hint of impatience in my voice. Leo quickly shook his head. No, I'll love you no matter how you change." Seeing his humble, almost pathetic devotion, I felt a pang of sympathy. Through our daily interactions, I had grown to appreciate his gentle nature and genuine sincerity. Following my instructions, Leo presented the latest research findings to Eleanor Vance, claiming he wanted revenge on Lily Hayes for betraying him. Eleanor, a woman of integrity, paid us a substantial sum for the results. I immediately used this capital to establish my own studio, preparing to rebuild my empire. Eleanor had extensive connections in the industry, far surpassing Arthur's after I was gone. Consequently, she quickly registered the new findings and launched a highly anticipated product. Right up until the product launch event, Arthur had no idea I had effectively sold him out. Using the pretense of knowing our enemy, I dragged him along to the event to see Eleanor's presentation. This launch event was the grand gift I had meticulously planned for Arthur since my rebirth. I couldn't wait to see his reaction. For maximum publicity, Eleanor had invited numerous media outlets to the new product launch. She stood on stage, speaking eloquently, weaving together her brand philosophy and the benefits of the new product in a compelling speech. When she mentioned the name of the core technology, I felt Arthur flinch beside me. I leaned in, adding fuel to the fire. Isn't she talking about our new research findings? Arthur's face turned ashen. During the Q&A session, he snatched a microphone from a nearby reporter and, with surprising composure, publicly challenged Eleanor, demanding to know the origin of her product idea. Arthur was certainly cunning and morally bankrupt, but I had to admit, he was remarkably skilled at negotiation and confrontation. He hit the crucial points, and in their brief, sharp exchange, he initially seemed to gain the upper hand. Until, that is, Eleanor delivered her devastating final blow. The core ingredient in our new product is Ganoderma, she announced clearly, chosen to honor the memory of my dearest friend, Mrs. Evelyn Reed. My fondness for Ganoderma was well known among many industry colleagues, and Arthur and I, Evelyn Reed and Arthur Sterling, had been a well-known couple. At that moment, countless eyes in the room turned towards Arthur. They also noticed the young, beautiful Lily Hayes sitting beside him. His wife's ashes were barely cold, and he was accompanied by a stunning young woman. The commercial dispute between Eleanor Vance and Arthur Sterling instantly ignited a firestorm of speculation and gossip. People are inherently drawn to scandal, especially hidden personal lives. I began to hear whispers around us, directly accusing Arthur of marital betrayal and even hinting at murdering his wife for his new paramour. Arthur couldn't withstand the intense public pressure. He made a hasty, awkward exit from the event. Back at the company, he erupted in a furious rage. Leo Vance was inevitably caught in the crossfire. Leo vehemently denied any wrongdoing, claiming it was merely a case of concurrent independent research. After all, cosmetic ingredients are a finite list. Similar discoveries could happen. Arthur couldn't find concrete proof, and he was desperate not to lose Leo, fearing the company would be unable to develop any new products. I meanwhile continued to subtly stir the pot. I can't believe Leo would be so ungrateful, I lamented, adding a few fake tears. I kindly introduced him, and he did something so disloyal. I feigned heartache and remorse for having seemingly caused Arthur trouble. Arthur, already overwhelmed by business woes, had to simultaneously soothe my feigned distress. He looked even more haggard. Watching him suffer filled me with immense satisfaction. I pressed my advantage, offering another suggestion. Eleanor Vance poached our talent and research. We should do the same to her. I urged him to accelerate his efforts to steal Eleanor's intellectual property. Now that he was determined to fight Eleanor tooth and nail, developing our own genuine new products seemed less important than the principle of attacking her. Arthur fired Leo Vance. He then resorted to repackaging old product formulas with updated packaging and increased marketing, managing to make a quick profit in the short term. Capitalizing on his temporary good mood, I cautiously brought up my desire for my own place. I asked for a small 60-square-meter loft near the university. Wasn't expensive, less than the cost of one of Arthur's luxury cars. Without hesitation, he bought it outright, paid in full, and handed me the property deed. I then gave the key to Leo Vance, ostensibly as compensation for losing his job. I also designated it as his workspace, encouraging him to focus on product development there. While I was busy with my complicated revenge, I trusted his abilities to create new products. When Leo received the key, he misunderstood my intentions entirely. He believed I had prepared the small apartment as a private haven for us. He invited me over, having prepared a lavish dinner, complete with flowers and candles, creating a perfectly romantic atmosphere. Perhaps because I had never experienced such thoughtful gestures or the simple romance of a young couple's date before, I inexplicably stayed and shared the meal with him. After a few glasses of wine, things took a turn I hadn't anticipated. I had intended to remain distant, proud even, but my body seemed to have a will of its own. Like a relentless force, I found myself unable to stop. Having lived for so many years, I had no idea that intimacy could be so genuinely wonderful. Every previous encounter had felt superficial, as if I had never truly experienced it before. I truly and wholeheartedly wanted to exclaim, "Youth is magnificent." After that night, my attitude towards Leo Vance shifted subtly. I stopped refusing his invitations for dates, movies, dinners, the simple activities of a young couple. And after a few such outings, I found myself genuinely enjoying them, even becoming somewhat addicted. Leo was genuinely diligent, kind, attentive, and considerate. He was truly difficult not to like. For the first time in my life, I experienced the sweet intoxication of being in love. Perhaps the intensity of my newfound happiness caught Arthur Sterling's attention. He began to monitor my movements. But the more he tried to control me, the more rebellious I became, and the more frequently I saw Leo. It was during this period of heightened intimacy that I unexpectedly became pregnant. Having never been pregnant before, I was initially thrown into a panic. I had no idea how I would manage Arthur, Leo, and a child before my revenge was complete. But soon a new plan began to form in my mind. Leo had taken such good care of me for so long, cooked me so many delicious meals. I decided it was time he tasted my cooking, in a kitchen I was familiar with. I planned to tell him about the pregnancy and my new strategy. Just as I had everything prepared, creating a romantic atmosphere just as Leo often did, I saw Arthur's car turn into the driveway. Now was not the time for him to discover he had been cuckolded. Panicked, I quickly pulled Leo into a nearby guest room and hid him. Leo looked hurt and confused. I stood on my tiptoes and gently kissed him on the lips. "Just bear with me a little longer," I whispered, trying to soothe him. "When the time is right, I'll leave him for good." A complex, hard-to-read emotion flickered in Leo's eyes. He pulled me into a tight hug, his voice low and heavy. "It's my fault I'm not capable enough to give you and the baby a life of luxury." But luxury wasn't necessarily what made me happy. His sincerity meant more. If my hatred for Arthur hadn't been so profound, I would have cut ties with him completely then and there and started a new life with Leo. But I didn't tell him that. I closed the guest room door and went out to face Arthur. Arthur walked in looking tired. He was surprised to see the dinner spread on the table and the wine poured. Lily Hayes, whom he had spoiled into helplessness, certainly didn't know how to cook. To dispel his suspicion, I quickly went over and linked my arm through his. "You seem down lately, so I specially asked the house staff to teach me a couple of dishes," I said sweetly. "I cooked them myself for you. I gave the staff the night off so we could have a romantic dinner for two." Arthur was visibly pleased, eager to sit down and taste the food. I playfully swatted his hand. "You're dirty. Go wash up first." While he went downstairs to the basement washroom, I rushed to the guest room, pulled Leo out, and quickly hurried him out the back door. Arthur returned none the wiser. Under my onslaught of feigned affection, he drank heavily. Due to his company's financial issues, he had been scheduled to meet with someone to discuss transferring shares that evening. He was supposed to be at a business dinner. The fact that he was home so early meant the meeting hadn't gone well. Once he was sound asleep, I quietly slipped into his study and opened his briefcase. There I found a shocking secret. A massive life insurance policy. The policyholder was me, Evelyn Reed. The beneficiary was him, Arthur Sterling. Arthur. How utterly wicked. After conspiring with Lily Hayes to kill me, he not only seized the company and wealth I had spent my life building but also cashed in a huge insurance payout because of my death. As Lily Hayes, I had been completely unaware of this policy. This proved that Arthur's so-called affection for Lily was also pitifully shallow. He had never intended to share this massive sum of money with her. Lily Hayes had colluded with him in murder, but was denied a share in the immense profits of that crime. That dog of a man truly only ever loved himself. In my previous life, his cunning and cruel calculations were hidden in countless details I hadn't noticed, leading to my tragic death. Thinking of this, my blood boiled. I could no longer contain the burning desire to make him pay the ultimate price. After that day, I stopped my efforts to covertly transfer his assets. Transferring assets carried significant risk, And no matter what, some funds would always be left behind for him. Instead, I simply told him I was pregnant. Arthur was overjoyed. With a grand gesture, he bought me a luxury car. I had never truly considered having children, so I assumed Arthur felt the same. But seeing his elation, I suddenly understood that he had always desperately wanted a child. When he presented me with a diamond ring shortly after, I finally accepted his proposal. However, I insisted we only get legally married due to the pregnancy, skipping a formal wedding ceremony. This suited Arthur perfectly. Getting married so soon after his wife's death would damage his public image. That hypocritical man would never put himself in such a compromising position. I also didn't want the true nature of our arrangement to be known publicly. We were two people with hidden agendas, yet we perfectly aligned. During my pregnancy, I didn't abandon my activities. I continued to frequent the company, partly to lull Arthur into a false sense of security, and partly to legally manipulate funds. I began channeling a steady stream of liquid capital from Arthur's company to Leo Vance, providing him with the significant financial and technical support he needed. Leo did not disappoint. In a relatively short time, he developed a brilliant new product. After securing the necessary patents, we quickly launched the product into the market, achieving considerable success. Within a year, Leo's company had expanded rapidly, already nearing the scale of Arthur's increasingly struggling enterprise. Simultaneously, I used Arthur's money to fund extensive marketing for Leo's brand, subtly positioning him as a rising star in the industry. Arthur initially paid little attention, dismissing the poor boy Leo Vance as insignificant. But gradually he became uneasy. He still suspected that Eleanor Vance was somehow behind Leo's success, providing him with support. Seeing that he wasn't even considering me as the culprit, I grew impatient. I started deliberately leaving behind subtle clues, little discrepancies, designed to make him doubt me, to plant seeds of suspicion. My goal wasn't just revenge. It was psychological warfare. I wanted him to struggle in a torment of suspicion, confusion, and anger, slowly destroying his sanity. Gradually, I began appearing openly with Leo Vance. Until one day, Arthur furiously slammed photos of Leo and me entering an apartment building together onto the table, confronting me. "I checked with your university," he roared. "He's your boyfriend." I burst into tears, crying dramatically. "I'm carrying your child, and you don't believe me. If I wanted to leave you, would I wait until now?" Although Arthur was filled with doubt, he couldn't stand to see me so distraught. His resolve wavered. I seized the moment, wiped my tears, and stormed into the bedroom. I frantically stuffed clothes into a suitcase. Then, I dramatically removed all the jewelry he had recently given me. The diamond ring, the necklace, the watch. I placed them on the mahogany chest of drawers, my expression firm. "Since you don't trust me like this, there's no reason for me to stay. I came here with one suitcase, and I'll leave with one. I'm giving back everything you gave me. I'll return the apartment deed too." My resolute stance completely caught Arthur off guard. Perhaps his desperate desire for a child blinded his reason. He couldn't even pause to question the child's paternity. He panicked, rushing forward to grab me, pleading, "Honey, I was confused. Someone misled me. Don't be angry, please don't leave me." Perhaps a gold digger's sudden display of principled integrity can be particularly captivating. Arthur, who had believed this was merely a transaction of power and beauty, now thought he had unexpectedly found true love and gained a child. He was beside himself with joy and from that moment on, became completely subservient to my wishes. Watching him behave this way, I couldn't help but roll my eyes internally. He was truly delusional. What could a young, beautiful woman possibly love about him? His age, his cruelty, his habit of not washing his feet before bed? But it was precisely this inflated self-confidence that allowed me to completely manipulate his emotions. It was time to close the net. Using the same signature as before, someone seeking justice for Evelyn Reed, I sent Eleanor Vance a secret file. It contained scanned evidence proving Arthur's theft of her research. The moment I transferred the last of Arthur Sterling's liquid assets out of his company, Eleanor Vance filed a lawsuit against him. A protracted legal battle between the two companies officially began. Eleanor adopted a strategy of attrition, seeking to drain Arthur dry. I meanwhile seized the perfect moment to ignite public opinion. Arthur's hastily launched new products, which were just repackaged old formulas, had initially sold well to his loyal customers. But the Lack of significant results and the blatant discrepancy between ingredients and marketing claims severely damaged the brand's reputation. I began using Arthur's money to buy trending topics online, publishing articles on marketing accounts, pushing the narrative towards complete public condemnation. Eleanor Vance, seizing this golden opportunity, intensified her legal attack to utterly crush Arthur. Having lost the lawsuit and his reputation, Arthur sank into despair. Combined with the poison I had been slowly administering, which had now reached a critical level, Arthur Sterling became bedridden. I, visibly pregnant, dutifully attended to him by his side until he finally stirred and opened his eyes. When he saw me there, he was visibly moved, tears streaming down his aging face. I sat composedly by his bed, waiting to deliver the truth. "How does it feel?" I asked, peeling an apple, my voice utterly devoid of warmth, dripping with indifference and mockery. "To lie there helpless, unable to do anything?" Arthur was speechless, his eyes wide with shock, staring at me. Perhaps in the face of Lily Hayes, he finally saw a glimpse of the woman I truly was. A flicker of raw fear crossed his features. Following a habit of many years, I cut the apple into small, neat pieces, arranged them on a plate, and picked up a fruit fork, offering a piece to his lips. That familiar gesture completely shattered his composure. Gurgling sounds rose from his throat, and his body began to tremble violently. I allowed myself a small smile. "About 6 months ago, I started putting poison in your food, the same kind you and your mistress used to poison your wife. Now you're suffering from the exact same illness she did." I watched calmly as Arthur's face contorted with shock and rage. Waiting until his emotions reached their peak, I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo of Leo Vance and me in a tender embrace. "Leo and I have been together for a long time, right under your nose," I told him, my voice mirroring his cruel gloating at my deathbed, perhaps even more triumphant. "And the baby I'm carrying? He's Leo's. We orchestrated all of this together, meticulously planning to empty your pockets and send you straight to hell. We are truly in love, and your existence was simply an annoying obstacle." Arthur's eyes welled up with tears again, this time a mixture of sheer astonishment, agonizing regret, burning fury, and paralyzing fear. His chest heaved violently, and he began to struggle for breath. I sat quietly by the bed, watching him gasping like a fish out of water, on the verge of death, thrashing in torment. Arthur choked out whimpering sounds. I guess he was asking me why I had done this to him. Echoing the cold words he had spoken to me in my final moments, I replied, "Oh, it's nothing. I just never loved you and I grew tired of you, that's all." Having delivered my final line, I turned and left him to his fate. But as I opened the hospital room door, I saw a familiar figure standing right outside. I froze, completely unprepared. Eleanor Vance had overheard my entire conversation with Arthur. Her face was a mask of profound shock. I hadn't expected her to visit Arthur in the hospital. My immediate fear was that her fiery temper would erupt, and she would deliver another stinging slap. I instinctively took a step back, giving her space, silently inviting her in. Unexpectedly, Eleanor reached out and gently closed the door behind her. She looked at me, her expression calm and friendly. "We need to talk." I didn't refuse. We went to a coffee shop near the hospital entrance. Sitting across from each other, we both ordered coffee. Out of habit, I ordered mine black, no milk, and reached for the cup with my left hand. Eleanor's gaze was intense. "What is your connection to Evelyn Reed?" she asked directly. Her question threw me off guard. "The one who wanted justice for Evelyn Reed," she stated, her voice quiet but firm. "That's you." I smiled and nodded. Eleanor didn't press for details, didn't ask how or why. Instead, she simply accepted it. From that day forward, we became close friends, a formidable and deeply connected pair despite the age difference. 6 months later, Arthur Sterling, having received no effective treatment, ended his sordid, miserable life alone in the hospital at the age of 57. I, along with my child, became his legal heir, inheriting his entire estate. Everything that had once been rightfully mine was returned to my hands. With Arthur's passing, that dark chapter of the past finally settled, dust to dust. From then on, there was no more Evelyn Reed. There was only Lily Hayes, reborn and transformed by my will. She graduated with honors, holding a master's degree from a top university, with dual specializations in chemistry and business management. She had even received an acceptance letter from Harvard Business School and was preparing for further studies. Leo Vance's company grew exponentially, becoming, alongside Eleanor's enterprise, one of the two leading powerhouses in the industry. Over the course of 3 or 4 years, he matured into a confident leader. Yet, even with wealth and success, he retained his fundamental sincerity and humility. His deep affection for me remained steadfast. Our relationship blossomed. We married and lived happily as a family of 3. Our lives intertwined with purpose and genuine affection.